Every year, thousands of children leave their homes across Africa with a bag on their back and hope in their eyes. They live with their mother's prayers. They live with their family's dreams. They live trusting the person beside them completely. And some of them never come back the same. This is the story of a 12-year-old girl named Julie and the auntie who smiled at her mother while planning to sell her daughter. If you have a child in your life, watch this to the end. Julie grew up in a small quiet town in southeastern Nigeria, the kind of town where everybody knows everybody, where children play outside until dark, where neighbors share food over fences, where life moves slowly and simply. From the outside, it looks like the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. And that was exactly the kind of place predators look for. Because in a place where everyone trusts everyone, nobody is watching closely enough. Julie's home was small, but it was theirs. Simple furniture, one but clean floors, a window that lets in just enough light in the morning to make the place feel warm. It was not a rich home, but it was a home full of love. And for a long time, that love felt like it was enough to protect everyone inside it. It wasn't. Julie was 12 years old, the oldest of 4 children. And from the moment she was old enough to understand what that meant, she took it seriously. Every morning before her siblings woke up, Julie was already moving, fetching water, sweeping the compound, checking that there was something for the younger ones to eat before school. She was 12 years old and she was already someone's mother, not because anyone forced her, but because she looked at her own mother's tired face every evening and decided she would carry whatever she could. Julie's mother was a woman built from sacrifice. Mrs. Ngozi had been widowed when Julie was just 7 years old, left alone with 4 children and a world that does not slow down for grief. She woke up before dawn every single morning, set up her small food store by the roadside, cooked and sold and smiled at customers, all day, every day, until her feet ached and her back hurt and her eyes were heavy. Then she came home, made sure her children had eaten, prayed over them while they slept, and did it all again the next morning. She was not a perfect mother, but she was a devoted one, and she would have walked through fire for her children. She just never imagined the fire would come wearing a familiar face. Some nights, Julie would wake up and find her mother sitting alone at the table, counting and recounting the same small amounts of money, moving it from one hand to the other like somehow the numbers would change. School fees were due, the rent was overdue, someone needed new shoes, someone else needed medicine. Julie would watch her mother from the doorway and feel a helplessness so heavy it was almost physical. She was 12 years old. She wanted so desperately to fix things. She had no idea that someone was about to offer her that chance, and that the offer would cost everything. Auntie Rose came back on a Tuesday afternoon. Julie heard the car before she saw it. A clean car, nicer than anything that usually stopped on their street. The door opened and a woman stepped out, stylish, confident, smelling of something expensive. Long black weave sitting perfectly on her shoulders. Colorful Ankara outfits pressed without a single crease. Gold jewelry catching the afternoon light. She looked like success. She looked like an answered prayer. She was neither. She came with bags full of things Julie's family had not seen in a long time. Clothes for the children, good food, provisions stacked on the table until it looked like Christmas. The younger children screamed with excitement. Even Julie's mother, this strong, tired woman who had learned not to get excited easily, smiled a kind of smile that reaches the eyes, and Auntie Rose stood in the middle of all of it, warm and generous and laughing, playing the role perfectly. She had been planning this visit for a long time. That evening, after the children had eaten and been sent to bed, Auntie Rose sat with Mrs. Ngozi alone. Julie lay on a mattress in the next room, too excited to sleep, listening to the low murmur of adult voices. She could not hear exactly what was being said, but she heard her own name several times. Julie, Julie, Julie. And each time she heard it, she felt that warm feeling again. Someone was talking about her future. Someone was making plans for her. She had no idea what kind of plans. She said she knew people, good people, people with connections and resources. She said Julie was too bright to be stuck in this small town. She said there were opportunities waiting, real education, a future that matched Julie's potential. She said she would take care of Julie personally, like her own daughter. Mrs. Ngozi was quiet for a long time after Rose finished speaking. She looked at her hands. These hands that had worked so hard for so long. These hands that had never been enough no matter how hard they worked. She thought about Julie, about the way Julie woke up before everyone else, about the way Julie watched her count money at night, about the future she so desperately wanted to give her daughter and couldn't. She thought about all the things she could not provide, and she looked at Rose sitting across from her, this woman who seemed to have everything, and she made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She said yes, not because she didn't love her daughter, but because she loved her too much. She said yes because she was exhausted and desperate, and someone she trusted was offering her child a way out. She said yes the way thousands of mothers across Africa say yes every single year, not knowing, never knowing, that yes was the beginning of a nightmare. The morning Julie left, her mother woke up even earlier than usual. She took out Julie's best clothes, folded each piece carefully and slowly, the way you fold something you love, the way you fold something you're afraid to let go. She packed Julie's small bag with the precision of someone trying to send a piece of home along with their child. Before Julie walked out of the door, her mother held her face in both hands, the way she had done since Julie was a baby. She looked at her for a long time, taking in every detail, every feature, like something deep inside her already knew. Go and make us proud, she said finally. Study hard, be a good girl, always remember where you come from, and always remember that your mother loves you. Julie looked into her mother's eyes. I will, Mama, she said. I promise. Julie wrapped her arms around her mother's waist and squeezed. Auntie Rose stood by the car, watching, waiting, smiling. The smile of someone who has already won. Her little sister cried. She was only 6 years old and she didn't fully understand what was happening. She just knew her big sister was leaving, and that felt wrong. Julie knelt down and hugged her. I'll be back before you know it. Take care of Mama, she told him. He nodded, and Julie picked up her bag and walked to the car, and she didn't look back. She waved from the window as the car pulled away, her mother standing in the compound, her siblings beside her getting smaller and smaller until they were just tiny figures in the distance. They stopped at a busy motor park. Auntie Rose made a phone call nearby, speaking quietly. Julie couldn't hear what she was saying. She didn't think anything of it. She was 12. She thought adults made phone calls. Then Auntie Rose told her they were going somewhere even better, somewhere with more opportunities than Lagos could offer. She said it casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Her heart was pounding with excitement, with the feeling that her life was about to change completely, just not in the way she could have imagined. On the plane, Julie pressed her face against the small window. She had never felt anything like it. That feeling of leaving the ground, of being nowhere. She thought it was the most incredible thing she had ever experienced. When they landed, everything felt different immediately. The air outside was dry and hot in a different way from home. The sky looked different. The signs were in a language Julie had never seen. The faces around her were mostly unfamiliar, and they looked at her in ways that made something deep in her stomach tighten. She moved closer to Auntie Rose. Rose was already walking fast, head forward, not looking at Julie. Something about her was different. Julie couldn't name it yet, but something in her body could feel it. Something had changed. She just didn't understand what. Rose led her to a quieter corner of the arrivals area. Some men were waiting there. Julie had never seen them before. Rose spoke to them in a low voice, in a language Julie didn't understand. The men looked at Julie, not the way people look at a child, the way people look at something they've purchased. Julie tugged at Rose's sleeve. Auntie Rose, she said quietly, who are these men? Where is the school? Rose looked down at her, and Julie saw it. For the first time she saw it, the warmth was gone, completely, like it had never existed. They put Julie in a car, not Auntie Rose's car, a different car, with the two men she had never met. She didn't understand what was happening. She called for Auntie Rose. Rose was still standing where they had left her, not moving, not running after the car, not calling Julie's name, just standing there. watching. Julie pressed her face against the window. "Auntie Rose!" she screamed. "Please!" The car kept moving. Rose got smaller and smaller until she disappeared. Except this time, there was no excitement, no hope, only terror. Pure, cold, absolute terror. And Julie finally understood. There was no school. There had never been a school. There was never going to be a school. Auntie Rose had never loved her, and her mother was very, very far away. They brought her to a house on the outskirts of the city. From the outside, it looked completely ordinary. A plain building on a dusty street, nothing to suggest what it contained, nothing to warn anyone passing by. That was the thing about this kind of evil. It really looks like what it is. It hides behind ordinary walls, ordinary doors, ordinary streets, and by the time you understand what is behind the door has already closed behind you. Inside there were other girls, 6 of them, sitting or lying on thin mattresses on a bare floor. Some looked Nigerian, some she couldn't place. One girl looked no older than 10 years old. They looked up when Julie walked in. They looked at her the way people look at someone who doesn't yet understand what they have walked into. The first night a woman came, hard-faced, sharp-eyed. She walked through the room slowly, looking at each girl the way you look at items on a shelf, assessing, calculating. She stopped at Julie, looked her up and down, then spoke in broken English. "You go walk," she said. "You no go cry, you no go run, you no go cause problems." Julie opened her mouth to ask about Auntie Rose, to ask about her mother, to ask when she could go home. The woman looked at her with an expression so cold it reached across the room and silenced every word before it could form. Julie closed her mouth, and that was the last time she tried to ask about home. During the day Julie walked, she scrubbed floors on her hands and knees until her palms were raw. She carried loads heavier than herself up and down stairs. She cleaned, she cooked, she washed, she served. She was given small amounts of food that were never enough. She was given orders in languages she barely understood. If she was too slow, she would be punished. If she dropped something, she was punished. If she cried, she was punished. She learned the rules of that place the painful way. Work, silence, obedience. Those were the only 3 things that mattered. And she obeyed them, not because she had given up, but because she was 12 years old and she was alone and she was afraid. And sometimes, survival looks exactly like obedience. The nights were worse than the days. Julie will not speak about the nights, not even years later, not to her mother, not to the people who tried to help her, not to anyone. Some things that happen to a child's body leave wounds that never fully close. Some things that happen in the dark stay in the dark forever. Not because the victims want to protect anyone, but because putting words to it makes it surreal, makes it something you have to carry in the daylight too. And some people survive by keeping certain things buried. All Julie would ever say about the night was this: "I survived them by thinking about morning, and I survived the mornings by thinking about home." Weeks passed. Julie lost count of exactly how many, but something was shifting inside her. The initial terror was settling into something else, something quieter, something harder. She watched everything, the routines of the house, when the guards were most distracted, which doors were sometimes left unlocked. She stored every observation like a small treasure, because Julie had made a decision. She was going to get out. She didn't want to go out alone. She planned to go out with some of the girls, because what they were experiencing was much more than their age. She didn't know how yet. She didn't know when. Did Julie escape? What happens to Julie after this night is something no child should ever have to survive. Part 2 is coming. Subscribe and like so as to get notification when part 2 comes. Thank you.